to you from the Oneida Lake Riding Gun Club. It's the new Oneida Lake Show. It's the new Oneida Lake Show. Cause the old one wasn't good enough. Cause the old one wasn't good enough. Sponsored by Anglers Bay, Bartow Road Bait and Tackle.
Alright. Good evening, folks. Rob Graffito here from Bartow Road Bait and Tackle and the new Oneida Lake Show. Coming to you from Anglers Bay in the big city of Cleveland, New York, not Ohio. Just to clarify that. T-Hoot should be going nuts right about now that I actually confused the two. So anyway, I'm sitting here tonight in Anglers Bay. We just went through the walleye opener last weekend, and I got to tell you, it was an amazing weekend. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, about it coming up and how good the fishing was going to be in the conditions, and boy, it really bared itself out. The 40th Annual Lions Club Derby had 1,500 people enter it, and a 27-inch fish won it. That's the biggest fish we've seen in 3 years win the Derby, but what was even more impressive is it took a 23 1/4 just to be in the top 25. We went back and figured it out. There was 100 fish over 22 inches, sorry, weighed in. So to need a 23 1/4 to get on the board, that just shows how healthy the walleye fishery is here on this lake. We were open for 54 straight hours. We had a lot of fun, sold a lot of bait, talked a lot of fishing. To those of you who stopped in, thank you very much. I love it. More and more of you keep stopping by to talk to me and talk to Pete about this show. That's awesome. Please keep subscribing. Please keep coming on board and checking it out. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to get better at it. Well, I don't know if we're going to get better at it. But, you know, as you can tell, he's not in the frame again. He's hiding behind the camera. This is where he belongs. You already know that. We've discussed this in the past. So, anyway, folks, tonight we have a special guest. This guy, we call him the Mad Scientist. Those of you who ice fish on Oneida Lake, I'm sure at this point in time you're familiar with the stank eye jig made by Fresh Run Fishing. Well, here to talk a little bit about some new products and some old products and some of the things that are coming down the pike is Jeff Tornabene from Fresh Run Fishing. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did, Rob.
We call him Trombone, just for the record. Okay, so you guys all know about the stank eye jig and the eyeball. The eyeball was this year's big addition. The eyeball jig was red hot. We sold a ton of it. It's back in stock at Bartow Road. I can tell you that right now. So stop in if you want to get some. I know I've been getting beat up by some people who didn't like that I was out of them, but we're back in stock because the Mad Scientist went back to work. Also last fall, he released the stick bait. This stick bait is quite literally the longest casting stick bait I personally have ever thrown. Multiple different colors. We have your Fire Tiger. The Clown is relatively new. That's Buckeye, which was last fall's big winner. Everybody wanted this for the shore bite. And I'm going to show you a couple things that aren't even out yet. That's Sandpike. That's Natural Perch. I'm pretty excited about both of them. That's Sandpike in particular. So talk to me. What went into this? How's your mind work when you're coming up with colors, when you're coming up with baits? What are you thinking?
I basically just, you know, I take advice from all the fishermen out there. I find a picture of something and I just copy it. Basically, that's pretty much what I do. Not a picture of a lure, a picture of an actual fish, like a goby or a sandpike or a perch. I try to do things a little bit different. Sometimes it takes me a long time to do things a little bit different. I'm kind of OCD, but you know, I like to you know, put out a good product. That's basically what I'm about. Why I came up with this blank? It's a 3.5 inch, 3/8 ounce blank, because anybody who's ever fished for walleye in the fall on Oneida Lake or anywhere around here, and you have to cast into a 25-mile-an-hour west wind, and your stick bait of choice only goes 10 feet. Well, that drives me crazy, so I decided that basically what I wanted to do is come out with one that was going to be a little heavier, and it's a 3/8 ounce blank, like I said, and it cast pretty far. I was pretty surprised. It also has a weight transfer system in it. So, yeah, that's how I came up with that. It took me about 12 to 15 different blanks to come up with the right blank. again, my OCD kicked in, but I found one, and everybody seems to like it. So, yeah.
He dropped this blank off to me. I went and fished it, and I simply called him and said, "Yeah, this is the one." The ability to cast, the distance you can cast this is crazy. But I do have a question for you. Would you recommend having more than 25 feet of line on your rod when you have to cast one of these?
I would, but experts like Pete Rich, who has plenty of fishing rods here, I guess the standard is 25 feet. So,
Yes.
25 feet braid. What is it? 25 feet braid with 150 yard fluorocarbon leader.
I don't think that's braid. It's brown.
Oh, it's brown.
I've never seen brown fishing.
I
rod
don't
before.
know. Neither have I. But yeah, Pete, that's Pete's go-to setup here. The spinning rod with the 25 foot of brown fishing line. You know, we got to keep it camouflaged with the 150 yard fluorocarbon leader.
Would lead core work better for your leader?
That's a good question.
Okay. You know, here's the bottom line, folks. If you're going to come to Anglers Bay to rent a boat, which, by the way, there's nobody on Oneida Lake with better boat rentals than Pete, bring your own rod. That's one thing we can absolutely tell you to do. Okay. So, moving on from the stick baits, you know, we all know, you guys have been buying the Fresh Run harnesses for a couple years now. They're fantastic. The tape jobs he does on the blades and the paint jobs he does are next to nothing. We saw an absolute ton of these. This year, for some reason, the harness bite has started early. I really don't know why that is. Normally, you don't see the harness bite start until the water gets in the 60s and the weeds have grown up. This year, the weeds haven't grown up. I think there's just an overabundance of bait, so don't be afraid to pull a harness right now. Get out of your comfort zone, do something you're not used to. So he has a full line of Colorado and willow leaf blades. He also does some ghost blades. Pete carries ghost blades here at Anglers Bay. So you have them. Also, there's a couple things that Jeff and I have been working on all winter long. And we finally have some finished product to work with. As most of you know, I'm a bass guy. And we've come out with a topwater line that we're going to be bringing out this summer. This is the popper. Again, it's his paint job, the eyes. This is an awesome looking bait. We have a number 2 hook on the front, number 4 on the back, and he's tying the crystal himself. We just went out and ran it. This is a phenomenal popper. It's going to be fantastic. I'm looking really forward to the water getting warm enough to where we can go start catching fish on it. And then something very close to my heart, he's doing a Fresh Run walking bait. To most of you in the fishing business, you're going to know this is a Zara Spook. However, a Zara Spook is a head-end product, so we're going to just simply call it a walking bait. Again, weight transfer and rattles. So when you're walking this spook, you're going to hear a lot of noise. It's going to give the illusion of a whole school of bait trying to get away from those fish. There's a couple colors. We have the blue and silver. We have the black and silver. He's going to be doing a fire tiger, some form of shad, probably in a bone color as well. We're pretty pumped about that. I'm very pumped about this. This is sort of like something close to me. I'd rather throw a topwater bait than anything else. And I'm really excited that somebody local has taken the time and the painstaking effort to put out such a quality product. So be looking for these coming pretty soon to the shop as well. What else you got in your crazy mind?
Timeout.
Uh-oh. I've never seen him move that fast in the time I've known him, folks, just saying. So I'll just sit here and twiddle my thumbs.
Here, you can explain this better. You're a bass guy.
Oh, what's this? You guys know what that is. It's about to be a Fresh Run Whopper Plopper. For those of you that aren't familiar with this bait, this is a prop bait. In the old days, you had the Devil Horse from Smithwick. The Devil Horse had a prop on either end, and it made a lot of noise. It was a straight line bait. Unlike a Zara Spook or a walking bait, you would cast and slowly retrieve it, and the props would spit a lot of water and do the thing. Well, the Whopper Plopper is taking that to a whole new level. This is a straight line cast and retrieve bait that makes an amazing amount of noise when you're retrieving it. But unlike the Devil Horse or some of your other prop baits, instead of having the high pitch, you know, almost like scratchy sound, this one actually makes a big noise. It's literally a plop, 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 plop. It displaces a lot of water, and it sounds different from what these fish are used to hearing, so it attracts them a little bit better. We talked about this for a while. He found a blank that we can do it on, and once his paint's applied to this, you're going to have an amazing bait. And that's really the bottom line. When you look at any of the baits that Fresh Run does and that Jeff paints, it's all in the detail. You know, show me a mass-made fire tiger with that kind of detail in the striping and in the belly. You can't find it. It's just not out there. So it's kind of cool to have someone that's this detailed and dedicated to getting it this right in our local area. We're real proud to not only call him our friend, I guess we'd call him that. We beat him up pretty good. But also to have him as somebody who's producing quality bait for this lake and the other lakes around the area. So that's what's coming, and I'm pretty stoked. I can't wait to throw this. It's kind of like, it's not very fair right now because the water's still cold. The topwater bite's not on, so I'm sitting here staring at these baits that I've been waiting for all winter long, and I can't even throw them right now. Well, I can. I did. I just threw the popper outside, but I only had 25 feet of line, which you've already established. And quite honestly, I could get about 3 pops and it was back. The first cast I made, Jeff said, "Did that just stop?" I went, "Yep." It was at the spool. Thanks, Pete. You're quite the host. So that's what Fresh Run's bringing to the table now. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Not really. I just, I take pride in, making good stuff for you guys, and I appreciate you taking the time to try it out, and hopefully it works out for you. If you got any suggestions, let me know. I'm always up in the middle of the night thinking of a new paint scheme or a new way to do something, and yeah, I appreciate any of the feedback you guys can give me.
If you go to the Bartow Road Bait and Tackle Facebook page, there is a video on there from our open house a few weeks ago of Jeff actually painting up one of the fire tigers. It's amazing to watch. I would recommend highly go check it out. You'll see just what goes into making one of these baits, and it really makes you appreciate the level of detail that he puts into it. You don't get that out of a mass-produced bait. You just don't. So, well, thank you, sir. I'm glad you came on.
Anytime.
Yeah, I hope nobody pukes in the dugout. Inside joke, folks.
You gonna bring that up?
Hey, we got another special guest tonight. Now that I can't hear, thanks, Pete.
Intro music.
This is Matt. Matt, where are you from?
Wilson, New York.
You're from Wilson, out west?
Yeah.
So you fish Lake Ontario and Lake Erie a lot?
No, actually, tournament walleye angler. So I travel all over the place. I run some circuits down in Pennsylvania. Do some stuff in Ontario. A lot of stuff in Ontario. That's my home lake. Erie, Chautauqua, all over the place.
So you're used to catching big walleyes.
Used to catch big walleyes.
Why'd you come to Oneida?
Great fishery.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Tell us about what you found. How do you approach a lake like this? How often do you come here?
I've only been here like a handful of times, and it's tough to get used to because it's a very big lake, and there's so many different ways that you can fish it. It's
Oh no! Wait a minute though. You just got done telling me Lake Ontario is your
for
home lake.
for an inland lake.
Okay, that's fair.
Erie's, it's a group of fish. Travel up from Ohio, and you just kind of follow them. You run your different stick baits. You have, but it's a little bit different here. There's a lot of structure here. There's shallows. There's weeds. There's rock piles. It's a little smorgasbord of pretty much everything.
So that's pretty cool to hear you say that. Oneida Lake is 54,000 square acres. Okay, it is the largest inland lake completely within New York State's borders. That gets lost in translation because a lot of people think of Lake Champlain. However, it's bordered by Canada, New York, and Vermont. People think of Lake Ontario, which, while it is a great lake, it's bordered by 3 states and Canada. So by putting that into perspective, especially when you look at the Finger Lakes, a 54,000 square acre lake dead in the middle of New York gets overlooked for its size. We were talking earlier about how when the wind blows here and it comes out of the east, it's pretty brutal. And that's kind of what Matt's saying. This lake is unique in the fact that not only does it have a lot of structure, it has a lot of different ways you can fish. This is a put and take lake where the hatchery process here is amazing. They just picked, I believe it was 3 million eggs this year. And they're going to stock those eggs. A large amount of those fry are going to go right back to in here. So this is just sort of like a different type of. I'm talking to you and your buddy earlier. You really can sort of see where you're having to redevelop what you're doing every day.
Yeah.
How do you go about patterning a lake like this?
You know, when I come to a different lake, I try to break stuff down into sections. And it also depends on, you know, water temperature. That's a big factor. The walleye tend to gravitate towards a little warmer water in the early season. So there's just a bunch of stuff that goes into it. With techniques, I mean, that all goes with time of the year, you know. I mean, colder water, the walleyes are a little slower. So, you know, you're doing stuff, Max Smiley Blades makes a great lure for harnesses, a blade. And I mean, you control those at 0.4 miles an hour and they still spin fine.
That's pretty slow.
Which has been awesome. It's been a big producer on Kinzua. That's very popular there. Also, jig and bucktails, blades are very popular here. So yeah, I mean, it all goes on what the weather's doing, what the water's doing, time of the year, you know.
How many walleye tournaments do you think you fish a year? How many do you fish?
6. I usually get 6 or 7 a year.
So you have you actually have a really decent schedule. You're actually going to different places and trying to do that.
Yes, I usually have 1 a month.
See, as a tournament bass angler myself, one of the things that kind of frustrates me about the fishermen here is a lot of these guys I don't think understand the difference between tournament fishing and fishing. The preparation that goes into it, the changing, being able to adjust midstream. There's all of a sudden we have a lot of tournaments coming to this lake, finally. For years we couldn't get a walleye tournament here, we just couldn't.
Yeah.
And then thankfully Alicia brought the Oneida Lake Team Walleye Trail here. Mike Urema has the I-1 Open here. Walleye Wednesday is taking off. We have a Tuesday night thing we're trying to do.
Yep.
What would your number one piece of advice be to someone who wants to start walleye fishing, who's just a walleye fisherman now, tournament fishing?
Get out there early and just play around with it. Try to be versatile. Don't rule anything out. You know, pay attention to what's going on with, like I said, the water temperature, the time of year, and you know, just don't rule anything out. I mean, really try to be versatile.
That right there is the number one issue I see with the guys learning how to tournament fish on this lake. The biggest problem that I experience in talking to these guys, and I went through it myself. I mean, I've gone through a period of time where I got stuck fishing history. You can't fish history for the most part and be productive and constantly cash a check. History will mess with you because you think it should be that way. However, it may not be. What Matt was just saying, what I will reinforce in a big way, look at this lake like it's a different lake every day. I have a website called Intellicast that I use religiously. The Oneida Lake Fishing Reports.com has weather stations all the way around this lake where you can go on it and see the barometer, you can see the wind, you can see the temperature, and you can look at the differences between what's happening on the east end of the lake and what's happening on the west end of the lake. Preparation for tournaments is key. Look at this place. You know, if you fish it today and it's doing one thing, it may be doing something totally different tomorrow. So look at your conditions and make your adjustments in that manner. That's what the difference between a tournament fisherman and a regular fisherman is. The ability to adjust, the ability to have an open mind, in my opinion. Would you say that's pretty?
Yes, absolutely. And there's a couple different ways to narrow it down a little faster too while pre-fishing. One, start out. I see a lot of people that start out with like jigs and slow methods, which is great, but you're not covering a lot of ground doing that. So you're really limiting yourself in pre-fishing. Start with something quicker. We call like a search tactic. Even if you're pulling harnesses at 0.8 miles an hour, you're covering more ground doing that than you are jigging. So start off with that. trolling, slow trolling, some stick baits, whatever. And then if you start running into these spots that you think are going to produce better quality fish, then slow it down. Then go into like your jigging or blade baits or stuff like that.
Searching's a big deal.
Yes.
Two of my favorite search baits are a rattle trap and a spinnerbait when I'm fishing for bass. It's exactly what Matt's talking about.
Yes.
Instead of sitting on an area and throwing a jig and wasting time, where time management is everything in tournament, especially in the pre-fish, you've got a day or 2 days maybe to figure out a pattern on a lake that you haven't been to in a while. Mm-hmm. So instead of sitting and focusing on one or two things, what he's saying for you to do is cover water.
Yep.
And then if you get into a few, you can slow down and go back and dissect it. Once I found a few fish with that spinnerbait or rail trap, I'm turning around and going back with a drop shot or a Senko or some sort of plastic worm, and I'm really working that area to find out if there's really something to it or whether these were two rogue fish. Same thing goes with walleyes. One thing that I told somebody the other day, a walleye basically is just a long smallmouth with teeth. They have pretty much the same attitude. And on this lake, they run in the same areas. Don't be afraid to fish for these eyes here in the areas where you would normally be fishing for bass, because they're together. One thing about Oneida Lake that I think gets lost on people, when they talk about deep water here, when you think deep water, what do you think here, not here, but elsewhere?
Well, I mean, I've been in Geneva, Ohio, where you're fishing for walleye in 75 feet of water.
Okay, folks, the deepest single hole in this entire lake is 50 feet. And that's one place the size of this bar. That's deep water he just talked about. Mm-hmm. When I hear guys talk about deep water on a night, I'm talking, I'm catching them in 20 to 30. That's not deep.
No.
And there's not a lot of that here. So keep that in mind when you're putting this together. These eyes aren't acting like Lake Ontario eyes, like Lake Erie eyes. These fish here have a whole different set of habitat, and that goes back to Matt's comment about the structure earlier. These fish actually are structure related here more than in most places because that's all they have. Walleye's a light sensitive fish. If they can't go deep, where are they going to go? They're going to go into the structure. They're going to go into weeds. They're going to go around the rock piles. They're going to go somewhere where there's food and where there's protection. So, keep that in mind when you're fishing on Oneida Lake. We aren't deep. There's no such thing as really deep here.
No, and I think that's a bigger problem for a lot of guys too, especially like from Lake Erie. When somebody from Lake Erie out my way or Ohio area comes here, or smaller lakes, it's a hard transition to make to go from a big lake to a small lake. Really
I can't agree with that anymore. Yeah, absolutely. And just the same thing as when guys from here leave here and they go to like Ontario, they're like, whoa, it's a whole nother animal. I hear the argument all the time. But the guys are trying to push for we should only have 18-foot boats now. I'm like, whoa, you don't live in the Northeast, man.
Yeah.
We got big water up here. I've owned 15-foot, 17-foot, 18-foot, and 21-foot bass boats. Let me tell you something. There's nothing like a 21.
No.
Nothing. Okay. So you have to keep that in mind too. But and your equipment's everything. What kind of rods do you like?
I like the St. Croix Icons. They are
everybody else.
Technique specific. They're affordable. You're not spending, $300-400 for a rod, and you're getting a decent quality rod with a fairly good warranty. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
and American made, by the way.
Yeah,
which is phenomenal because there's not much of that left anymore. Mm-hmm. So, what's your next event?
My next event, next month, I will be heading back down to Kinzua Reservoir.
How do you feel about Kinzua?
Great fishery. The hatchery, they just did a hatchery not too long ago. I want to say within the last 6 years, 5-6 years. And I'll tell you what, it's got a very healthy population of walleye. They're small, but the population's healthy.
You excited for it?
Very.
He's a tournament guy, I can tell.
Yeah, there's nothing better than going out. Even just going out for fun and catching 40, 50 walleye,
I gotta tell you guys, to me, and my wife finally got to see it. My wife is my team partner now. We fish a lot of team events together, and the first time she ever got to go to a championship with me, and we got to stand there with 200 boats, sun coming up over the horizon, and the American flag waving with the national anthem.
Yeah.
If you don't get chills, you don't belong tournament fishing. That's an awesome way.
This
This guy must be okay. He wears exactly the same coast as I do. I think that's kind of cool. So, well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Enjoy your time here.
Thank you.
Teach your buddy something, I think. I don't know. Maybe.
Caught up with more than 25 feet of line on the rod.
Well, that's Pete.
Well,
I mean, that's unteachable.
we might have to teach him.
No, you're not going to teach him nothing. We're getting flipped off, folks. We won't let you see that. But, so, thank you very much. Thanks, Matt, for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. We'll be having more and more folks like this. The summer's coming. It's getting busier in Anglers Bay. If you need a rental boat, there is no better fleet than this guy has down here. Hit up OneidaLakeFishingReport.com. Come on, please subscribe to this channel. We need you. The more you subscribe, the more we can do. And we look forward to bringing you more and more as the season goes on. Maybe you'll even get this guy out on some, maybe we'll do some pontoon boat action this summer. And we'll do some actual, wait a minute, bass boat stuff. I got a bass boat. Why would I go on a pontoon boat? Well, because never mind. But anyway, thank you folks very much. This is Rob Graffito from Bartow Road Bait and Tackle. The man behind the camera, Pete. We got Jeff Trombone. I'm going to do it. And Matt here. Thank you for joining us this week on the New Oneida Lake Show. Until next time, go get them fish and tight lines.